There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is whether or not Santa Claus is real. All the rest, whether your teeth actually have any resale value, whether the Easter Bunny is more man or beast, comes afterwards. There are, of course, the playground skeptics, those who deny his existence on the basis of logical deduction or what their big brother told them. How does one visit every child on Earth in the same night? How can one believe that a sleigh filled with billions of presents and pulled by flying reindeer actually works? Has anyone actually seen Santa? Such skepticism has led to a rise in Santa denialism, an intellectual movement that spans entire elementary schools in its forceful renunciation of blind faith. Santa deniers are everywhere. Each day, hundreds of videos are uploaded, amassing millions of views. However, in our lust for truth, we may have overreached our own nature. As Nietzsche had written in the Jolly Gay Science, Santa is dead and we have killed him. What was merriest and cheerful of all that the world has yet owned has bled to death under our knives. The existence of Santa Claus, rightfully questioned as all things should be, nonetheless held a crucial role in the function of society itself. Hence Nietzsche's statement carries with it a tragic sentiment, one that pleads for mercy from the recklessly cultish Santa deniers. As Jacques Lacan has discussed, Santa functions as the big other. By big other, Lacan refers to a collective symbolic order. As the child develops a sense of language, they are asked to adopt the various signs and signifiers that allow them to communicate between their needs and demands. For example, the child's parent, the other, asks that the child uses please and thank you in order to have their needs satisfied. However, the parents quickly prove to be inadequate as they aren't present in all moments, and even more so lack access to a year-round magical toy factory. Santa soon comes to replace the discourse of the parents, providing a strict moral binary that can guide the child throughout the year. He sees you when you're sleeping and knows when you've been bad or good. Now, under the frame of Lacanian psychoanalysis, we observe that the child must act good or they will be given a lump of coal. Those that have freed themselves from the big other find both liberation and anxiety. With no psychosymbolic guide to turn to, the Santa denier may act out against any sense of good in order to substantiate their identity with what they believe to be the noble truth, that Santa does not in fact exist. Good and bad are little more than arbitrary social constructs. The F word is no longer sacred. However, the honeymoon phase of pure nihilism is a short one. Many Santa deniers fail to adequately replace the vacuum of purpose they have so passionately embraced. Some may turn to substances, whereas others may turn to science. Yet one interesting group of thinkers near the swing sets propose that such denialism should be but a path to greater skepticism. For example, the more class-oriented entirely rejected the whole project of Santa. Instead of arguing for or against Santa's existence, they considered his very image to be nothing more than justification for the exploitation of the masses. Santa's questionable labor practices were now illuminated. What were the material conditions of the elves? Are Christmas carols simply tools used to romanticize the inequality between Santa and his workers, installing a false consciousness that such exploitation is but a necessity of the spirit of Christmas? And regarding Santa's capitalistic conduct, why does Santa give nicer presents to people that are wealthy? Critical Santa theory also focused on gender, noting the obscured and minimized importance of Mrs. Claus. Had Santa further entrenched a patriarchal view of production? And what about the mistletoe with regards to an ever-changing view on consent? Unfortunately, many playground gender theorists failed to fully elaborate their views, likely due to their inability to confirm or deny the existence of cooties. The most prominent of the swing set movement came from those who directly challenged the very purpose of Santa, seeing him as the symbol of grand explanations above all else. For parents to claim that Santa is the reason why their kids can't stay up past 10 or have a second scoop of ice cream appeared almost manipulative. Santa was used to explain away any and all purpose behind moral behavior, acting as the oppressing superego on the individual's craving for freedom. This extreme skepticism scrutinized the very notion of truth itself, whether it was Santa or science. Nothing was sacred. Everything was power. It was not Santa that they had rejected, but the very spirit of Christmas itself. Theorizing to this degree leaves us with little. December 25th becomes just another day. The cookies are left uneaten, and the milk is spoiled. And beyond all rational thought, and perhaps in consideration of the current year, we must ask ourselves if this is a realistically human conclusion. As Terry Eagleton wrote in After Santa, we can operate as human beings only by repressing much of what goes into our making. It is our nature to be anti-theoretical. even if we need theory to uncover the fact. Too much repression, to be sure, will make us fall ill. But for this deeply anti-romantic view, repression is not an evil itself. We cannot speak, think, or act without it. Only by self-oblivion can we be ourselves. Amnesia, not remembrance, is what is natural to us. Certainly some may have embraced that one 4th grade exchange student Pascal's idea that we should just believe in Santa on the basis that we lose little by believing in him, on the off chance he is real and will actually give us presents. But this is the pragmatic solution, whereas Eagleton's insight gets at the very heart of why Santa is real. He represents the very real human tendency to stop thinking and start believing. In a world that has long accepted the edgy stock phrases of nihilism, belief is a breath of fresh air. And yes, it can be dangerous and oppressive and manipulative, but at its core it can also be the most genuine feeling in the world. Overanalyzing something that is developed directly from the incomprehensible will only lead us to dead ends and frustration. And we miss out on the magic, something that we can only reach through the repression of our analytical impulse. Believing that Santa ate those cookies, believing that magic exists, there's something beautiful about going beyond what is ordinarily reasonable. Some would argue that it's a necessity. As Kant wrote in the 2nd edition of his Critique of Pure Holiday Spirit, I have found it necessary to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. Why is it necessary? Is it not in those moments where the world reveals itself to be so much more incomprehensible and fantastical than we had expected, where we truly appreciate the gift of existence itself? Within cheesy Christmas specials, inflatable snowmen, and corny Christmas sweaters, there is but one hope. If Santa exists, then all is not lost. And perhaps it is only within a Kierkegaardian leap of faith where we find such an answer. And yeah, with how this year has went, it really looks like the last thing we should be doing is revisiting a seemingly closed case regarding the existence of an obese bearded man in the North Pole. But for the 10,000 letters sent by kids to Santa this year, begging for things to get better, he is the answer. Maybe he won't relieve us of our current troubles, but when the world sucks, we could all use a little bit of magic.
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
It's fine.
It's a little bit about what you just said, because I loved what you said in your speech about magic.
Yeah.
What do you think we all can do to make a little bit more magic in the world and make it a little bit better?
I think, honestly, right now we live in a time where things are very divisive. And, you know, I think Meryl Streep was speaking on this a lot, where it's like we all have a lot of responsibility. And I remember going to school because I wasn't allowed to talk about magic, and I wasn't allowed, I knew Santa Claus was fake, but I was around a lot of kids who didn't know that. So you have that responsibility to keep that going and understand why you're doing it, because of joy. So I think human joy is super important. It doesn't come from computers. It just comes from belief. You know, acting, making music, all that stuff is believing in something that maybe someone older doesn't truly believe, but like when you see it in a child, it makes you kind of believe it again, you know, because we forget how innocent and beautiful we were. So I think, yeah, it's our responsibility to make magic again, because I think a lot of the shit that's happening now is bullshit. Yeah. Thank you.